going, everybody? Welcome back to the Clothesline podcast. My name is Oren, and this is our AEW Full Gear review. It's a little bit late to the party, but I had to do the Hebrew version first, and now I got time to finally sit down and give my full review of AEW's Full Gear that happened this past Saturday, and it was quite the event, I have to say. Now, I've been reviewing and giving scores to various pay-per-views ever since, I think, 2 years ago when I started this whole Clothesline channel project. And throughout my reviews through years past and current events, the only event I ever gave the highest score was WrestleMania 17. I gave that event a 9.5 out of 10. AEW's Full Gear, I gave it a 9 out of 10. This is one of the best pay-per-views I have ever seen. It was fun. It was good. Great matches, great stories, great endings to those matches. And probably the best pay-per-view AEW has put to date. So let's see exactly what happened at AEW's Full Gear. We're going to start things off with the pre-show, the buy-in. A couple of things happened there. First off, Tony Schiavone interviews Dante Martin when the Acclaimed jump in and try to recruit them to their team. I don't really get that. I mean, the whole story right now is that Lio Rush is his mentor, and then this past Friday on Rampage, Team Taz wants to recruit them to Team Taz, and now the Acclaimed. Why the Acclaimed? They're not really a faction. They're just a team. I really didn't get that connection. Why exactly the Acclaimed tried to recruit him? But of course he declines. He attacks them, and he gets the pop from the crowd. I believe he is from Minneapolis. Later on in the show, we had Orange Cassidy being interviewed, speaking about this week's Dynamite, where he will challenge the Butcher and the Blade because of his loss on Rampage to Matt Hardy, and he has a mystery partner. He says he wants the best friends to have a day off, and he chooses someone from Chaos, a big dog. No, not Roman Reigns, but he chose Tomohiro Ishii. Now, for those of you who haven't seen New Japan Pro Wrestling and have no idea who is Tomohiro Ishii, all I gotta say is you're in for a treat. Tomohiro Ishii is one of the best wrestlers on the planet, one of the toughest wrestlers on the planet, and also the brand new never open weight champion for New Japan Pro Wrestling as he defeats Jay White Switchblade at the latest New Japan show, Battle in the Valley, which happened on the same day as Full Gear. And then we go to our match. It's a tag team match between participants in the TBS Championship Tournament, with Nyla Rose teaming with Jamie Hayter, taking on the team of Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. Of course, those four women will face off inside the TBS Championship Tournament, as Thunder Rosa will face Jamie Hayter in the quarterfinals, and Nyla Rose will face Hikaru Shida. And it was a really fun match. It was a fun match, fun opener for the pre-show. And here's one of the things I loved about this pay-per-view, the crowd. The crowd was incredible. To me, sitting at home, watching it on TV, it felt like the crowd never died. To me, at least. Like, there was never a match where you didn't hear the crowd react or shout and support the people inside the ring. From the opening match, from the pre-show, up until the main event. There were a couple of moments the crowd did die down, but it never felt to me like they're not interested in what happens in the ring. Each and every one of the matches felt a lot of love from the fans, and it showed on TV, at least in my point of view. So it's a good match. There was a spot in the match where Nyla Rose, of course, does a Eddie Guerrero tribute with a frog splash off the top rope. The first of many. There were like 3, maybe 4 tributes all over the night for Eddie Guerrero. Of course, this Saturday was 16 years since his passing. We do miss him, Eddie. And the ending came when Hikaru Shida rolled up Nyla Rose for the victory. So it was a fun match. Good opener. I liked it. The faces win, Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. And then this will lead to the quarterfinals where Thunder Rosa will meet Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose will face off against Hikaru Shida. If I had to be a betting man, I'm guessing Thunder Rosa over Hayter and Nyla Rose over Hikaru Shida. But hey, that's just my gamble. We start things off with the first match of the night. It's MJF taking on Darby Allen. A surprise first match. I thought this match would be a lot later down the card, but it was a good opener. But not your typical opener, and I'm going to explain why. Usually, first off, one of the most important matches in a pay-per-view, in a show, is the first match. Because the first match sets the pacing for the rest of the night. If you have a first good match, then that leads on to the rest of the card. It influences the rest of the card as to how much the crowd will be invested in the card itself. So you're going to have a good opener. Now, usually, in my experience from watching these pay-per-views and shows, the first match is always a fast-paced match to get the crowds going. This was the exact opposite. It started off really, really slow with a wild exchange between Darby and MJF. Not really a wild exchange, but a lot of exchange and reversals. Now, if I can recall, I do believe that the whole opening sequence to this match was very, very resemblance to a match between Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. I'm pretty sure I saw that exchange in a match between Guerrero and Mysterio. I want to say Halloween Havoc 97, but I'm not really sure about that. But I did see that exact exchange from Eddie and Rey as MJF and Darby Allin did the same moves. In my opinion, that was the second tribute of the night. Now, the thing was, when Eddie and Rey did that same exchange, they did it really, really fast. Because they're used to it. MJF and Darby did the exchange very, very slow. Like light years slow. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a knock on MJF and Darby Allin. I thought that they did it slow because they wanted to make it perfect. They wanted to turn out perfect, and the crowd loved it. They didn't turn on it. They realized what they were trying to do, and they supported it. And of course, then afterwards, they got up on their feet and applaud them. That was just beautiful to see. After that exchange, the match picked up a little bit. It was a very, very technical match. Of course, because of the conversation Darby and MJF had, that Darby said he wants to win a wrestling match. No crazy spots, no high spots. Now, Darby, nothing personal against him. But the man sometimes does spots that I just say to myself, I just hope he's going to be okay. So I was happy to have a match of Darby Allin where he doesn't necessarily take any dangerous spots. There was one spot, he tried to do the coffin drop to the outside, and MJF caught Darby like at the last second. He moved in the last second and he caught him. Could have gone a lot worse. MJF is one of the best sellers in the business. I love the fact that every time Darby worked on his leg and then he did some kind of move that impacted his leg, like a backbreaker or the tombstone on the ring apron, he just sold it like a maniac, like he broke his leg. That was awesome. The ending came when Shawn Spears and Wardlow tried to interfere, only to be stopped by Sting with a baseball bat and a chair. And that leads to shenanigans inside the ring where MJF hits Darby with his Battle Bowl ring. I think that's the name of it, the Diamond Battle Bowl ring. And then he wins with a headlock takeover the movie said that he would beat Darby with. That's just brilliant. That was just brilliant and awesome. And MJF wins. And I was happy because it was done perfectly. A very good opener. A very different opener. That's one of the things I even liked it even more because of the fact that it was different. They took a chance on something and it paid off, in my opinion, because the crowd popped for this match. Now, for those of you who might think, oh no, Darby Allin loses a second match in a row, a second pay-per-view match in a row. He's going down the card. Relax. He's fine. He's fine. He's going to have his rematch with MJF. I'm pretty sure the next match is going to be in a stipulation some kind, a street fight or whatever, and Darby will get back his win, and then the series will be tied. Maybe they'll have a third match. But he's okay. I'm not worried about him for 1 second. I'm pretty sure he's going to win the rematch. And still a very good opener. The second match was between the Lucha Bros and FTR for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Now I got a confession to make. The last pay-per-view, All Out, Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros. I didn't like it. It's not a knock on the Bucks and the Lucha Bros. It's just I didn't like the way the match was built. I'm not really a fan of spot fests. And when it comes to FTR, I'll say it right now. FTR, in my opinion, is the best tag team on the planet. And the reason why they're the best tag team on the planet is because they know how to elevate any opponent they work with. And that is the beauty of it, because this match with Lucha Bros was a lot better, in my opinion, than the tag match at All Out. And the reason for that is because, in my eyes, FTR elevated Lucha to their level in the form of, okay, we're going to have a tag team match. This should be a tag team match, and it showed. This was a very good tag team match. And that's why FTR, to me, is the best tag team on the planet. With all due respect to the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros, like, I know what it is to not like a certain style, but still to appreciate the participants in those matches. But to me, this match was a better match than All Out's. Steel cage between the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks. And it was just a good tag team match. It wasn't the greatest tag team match, but it was a good tag team match nonetheless. Now, I had a conversation with a friend about the outcome of this matchup. And for one, I agreed and disagreed. I agreed on the part that I thought the finish should have been when Pentagon or Penta L0M, I don't know what his name is nowadays. He held it up. He held up one of FTR's. I believe it was the Dax Hardwood for a pile driver, and then Ray jumped from the turnbuckle on top of the FTR guy, and then he jumped to the other FTR guy. That could have been the finish, but it wasn't. They told the finish later on, and I understood his point saying that this should have been the finish, but I realized why this wasn't the finish because of the eventual finish. And that's okay. That is okay, because when it comes to wrestling organizations like AEW and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and I'm going to throw in Game Changer Wrestling, even though I haven't seen a lot of their stuff, but from the stuff I've seen, it kind of makes my point that in those organizations, a finishing move is not a finish. You can do the finishing move, but it wouldn't necessarily finish the match. This is not WWE style. WWE style is a finisher, except for a pay-per-view. In AEW, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, you can do a ton of moves that in some people's eyes could be finishing moves, but they won't finish the match. And if you can get used to that point of view, then you can enjoy watching stuff like AEW and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and GCW and so forth. Me, I keep myself open-minded because I know if I'm watching different organizations, they'll have different styles, different storytelling devices. This is just one of them. So, yeah, I kind of agree that could have been the finish, but I understand why it wasn't the finish. The finish was, and I'm not sure a lot of people picked that up, is that they did a finish that was another tribute, but this one was for the Killer Bees when they went under the ring, and when they came out, they were with the green mask they wore as the Luchadors when they won the AAA titles, and the Illegal Man was pinned. and I laughed so hard. I swear I laughed because, for one thing, when the Killer Bees did it, I never really got that because it didn't make any sense to me. Why would you put the mask in the mid-match? But they did the exact same thing, and I love that tribute, and I understood why they did it. To me, it was a good finish. It was a good finish. It was a funny finish, and it would lead to another rematch down the road because the Lucha Bros pinned the Illegal Man. So I laughed at the finish. I love this match. Another good matchup. This was a very fast-paced match as opposed to the first match on the card. You usually go fast, slow, fast, slow. Now it's slow, fast, slow, fast. So yeah, I like this matchup. And Lucha Bros retained the championship. The next matchup was the finals of the Eliminator Tournament, where the winner will become the #1 contender for the AEW Championship, and it was Bryan Danielson versus Miro. I just hope that during this review I won't make the same mistake I did on the Hebrew version, where I accidentally called Bryan Danielson Daniel Bryan. I was just like, I'm kind of used to it, so I'll try to say the right name, but if I do accidentally say something else, I apologize. This was also a good match. I thought that maybe they had a botch in the beginning when Bryan went to the floor, but then I realized it was maybe part of the story. But it was a slow-paced match, and exactly what the audience needed after the fast-paced match before, and I liked it. Slow-paced, hard-hitting, Miro's a monster, Bryan's trying to take down the monster. It was a good story to tell. Yeah, I thought there was a botch in the ending when he tried to hit that tornado DDT, but that was just a weird positioning to that tornado DDT when they stood on top of the turnbuckle. Miro couldn't twist right, and it looked awkward. And then Danielson locked in that guillotine choke, and Audrey just rang for the bell. Yeah, kind of a botched finish, but they did try to do the best of an awkward situation. I didn't really have that much of a problem with it. So, Bryan Danielson wins. He's the new #1 contender, and he'll face whoever's the AEW champion at the end of the night. The next match was a 6-man Falls Count Anywhere match between the Young Bucks and Adam Cole, taking on the Jurassic Express and Christian, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, of course, respectively. And again, another good match. We talked about the false finishes. We talked about PWG. This was a PWG match, and I have no problem with it. It was another good match, another fun match. The crowd loved it. And the story of the match, overall, that this was about Jungle Boy. Again, in my opinion, Jungle Boy is the future. Jungle Boy is the guy we need to look out for. And if it hasn't been quite obvious enough in past events, this marks it. This is the stamp of approval. He was the star of this matchup. This reminded me of NXT's War Games 2017, when Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era made their debut in that event. In that big match, and the match was about Adam Cole. This was about showing us, check out Jungle Boy, this guy's the future of AEW. Good match, good spots, funny spots. The ending came when Jungle Boy hits a concerto to Matt Jackson, and the faces win, which was surprising, but when you look at the past couple of weeks of them being attacked by the Young Bucks and Adam Cole, it kind of makes sense that the faces will win. So, good win, good match, no complaints. The next match of the card was a tag team match between Pac and Cody, taking on Malachi Black and Andrade El Idolo. Now, I have a problem with this matchup. This is one of the matches that I have a problem with, and basically affects the final score of this pay-per-view. There were a couple of problems in the match. One of the problems was the mistrust between the tag team partners. Now, throughout the past couple of weeks, Pac helped Cody fight off Andrade and Malachi, who formed some kind of an alliance. And Cody returned the favor. When the match began, it started off with blind tags immediately from Cody, and then back from Pac, and vice versa. And I didn't get that. Why would they do blind tags? When did they have a scuffle? Like, there was no argument leading to this. There was no quarrel. There was no miscommunication. Not a promo between them saying, stay out of my way when I try to get back at Andrade or Malachi. Nothing. So the mistrust kind of confused me. And even worse, that the same mistrust happened between Andrade and Malachi. Also, a blind tag out of nowhere. And I'm like, why? You are in an alliance that worked perfectly up until that point. And again, no quarrels, no miscommunications, no nothing. And that's just one of the things that didn't work for me in this match. Now, my ideology when I do these reviews, and I probably talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. I am a man of consistency. You have to be consistent with what you tell in the story you're telling to the audience. And if one of the details doesn't fit, it affects the whole story and it doesn't make any sense to me. And this is just one of those things. There was also another thing later on in the show that I will address, but for now, let's talk about this point. Because why are they not trusting each other? Why are there quarrels between these tag team partners? They have a common enemy. There shouldn't be any infighting when there's nothing to instigate it. So it hurt the match. Now, as for the action inside the ring, when Pac did moves, the people cheered. When Andrade did move, the people cheered. When Malachi Black did moves, the people cheered. And then there was Cody. I feel sorry for Cody. I mean, I don't think he really deserves all the boos he's been getting. I mean, I got no problem with the guy. I don't have a problem with the character. It's just sad. I mean, he deserved better than this. Now, the ending came when Pac finally pinned Andrade El Idolo. But the whole story of the match didn't make any sense and it hurt the match eventually. I heard rumors and stories that this match was originally supposed to be a fatal four-way. And to be honest, if this was a fatal four-way match, it would have worked out a whole lot better. The match was still good through the action that was in the match itself, but if the match was a fatal four-way because all four men don't trust each other, that would have made a lot more sense. And I believe was a better choice to do this matchup. Now, if I had to take a wild guess, a shot in the dark, I think this match will lead to a fatal four-way because now the story fits the mold. Which is sad because they shouldn't have done any infighting inside the match before anything actually happened. So it hurt the match. So here's me hoping we'll actually see a fatal four-way, which I believe could steal an entire show and could even be match of the year. But we'll just have to wait and see. The match afterwards was between Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, taking on Ty Conti for the AEW Women's Championship. I gotta say a good word about Ty Conti first, because Ty Conti, when I saw her in NXT, I never thought while watching her in NXT that she could amount to this level of success. And this is not a knock on Ty Conti. This is a knock on the NXT development division. You look at NXT. They have 7 arenas. They have a promo class, an on-camera class, the greatest coaches in the world, and a lot of respect to those coaches in that system. But overall, out of that system, it didn't feel like Ty Conti got the tools she needed to become a great wrestler. Then I see her in AEW, when she does things completely different, and it seems like she had more experience and more constructive criticism in AEW than she ever did in NXT. And she's a whole lot better. I am really happy for Ty Conti. I'm really happy for her. And it showed in this matchup. I was pretty happy for her, and the crowd was a little bit tired from the previous matches, but I don't think it hurt the overall match itself. A good match overall. Ty Conti, one of the best performances she had thus far in AEW, but to no avail, she lost by a roll-up to Britt Baker, which eventually protects Ty Conti, because Ty Conti was locked in the finishing move of Britt Baker, the lockjaw, a couple of times, but she was able to escape each and every time. And the only reason that Britt Baker actually won is because of a roll-up, by a sheer luck. And that is perfect for Ty Conti, because even in defeat, she lost by a narrow margin. She lost by sheer luck by Britt. Britt escaped this match barely with the championship, and I think that showed that Ty Conti is a very serious threat to the AEW Women's Championship, and I can't wait to see a rematch. And even though Ty Conti didn't win the championship, she showed that she can win the championship later on. She earned it. So I love the story. Also, I'm going to address this. There was a move, Ty Conti did an RKO, and JR called it a stunner, but then her finishing move is called the Ty KO. Wait a minute. If she did an RKO, that move should be called a Ty KO, and her finisher should be named something different. I do not accept this. That was not a stunner. Alright, moving on. Next matchup was between Eddie Kingston and CM Punk. I love this. This was basically a street fight. These two guys show that they hate each other. They beat the hell out of each other. It was awesome. And for the first time ever since he returned to the world of wrestling, CM Punk got booed. He got booed big time. Like, in the beginning, the crowd was very divided between Eddie Kingston and CM Punk. But then there was a point in the match where CM Punk started to get boos. They booed him. Eddie was over than CM Punk. Now, I thought it was awesome. And of course, when CM Punk did the 5 moves of doom, oh man, I laughed so hard. That was a brilliant move. That was a brilliant spot. I popped for that. The crowd loved it. They went ecstatic. And I didn't do a preview to this pay-per-view. And if you would have asked me who I think should win from a story standpoint, I would have said Kingston. I thought he was going into this match with a bigger story to tell, that he needed to prove himself against Punk. Not that he actually needs to prove himself, but still. But because Punk berated him, so he kind of comes off as a bad guy. Even though Eddie cheap-shotted him first and whatever. And disrespected him. Still, Eddie showed that he had the bigger heart in this, if that actually makes any sense. So I thought when the crowd popped for Eddie, that Eddie should have beaten Punk. Eddie should have been the guy that get the rub of beating the first guy to beat Punk in AEW. But the ending came when Punk won. Now I'm curious to see what's going to happen on Dynamite if the crowd turns on Punk because of this single match. I don't know. I really thought Eddie could have won this. I really thought Eddie should have won this. But again, a good match. I enjoyed it. A good brawl. Loved the CM Punk pants. A very good old school reminiscent of his old attire back in the Ring of Honor days. And what was it? There was another area, I think IBW. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, good match. Punk wins. Next matchup was the Inner Circle versus American Top Team in a Minneapolis street fight. Here's my second point about consistency. They sold this match as a Minneapolis street fight. So why, for the first couple of minutes of the match, they had a regular tag match? It didn't make any sense. You sold this as a Minneapolis street fight. I thought it was going to be war from the get-go. But you had an actual wrestling match for the first couple of minutes. It didn't make any sense. Sure, Junior Dos Santos did a moonsault. It was an awesome spot. But still, this is a street fight. Same thing happened a couple of years ago in Extreme Rules with Taker and Roman Reigns taking on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. They had a regular tag match in an Extreme Rules tag team match. It doesn't make any sense. So don't call it a Minneapolis street fight. Of course, after those couple of minutes, they actually didn't go into the street fight, and it was an awesome match. A lot of crazy spots. Sammy Guevara, insane bump when he did a swanton off the ladder into a table into Scorpio Sky. Of course, one of the funniest and greatest spots of the night was, of course, Ethan Page getting the Iron Claw from Baron Von Raschke. That was awesome. That was an awesome spot. And the ending came with another tribute by Chris Jericho when he did the frog splash onto Dan Lambert, giving the win to the Inner Circle. Also, I gotta give praises to Dan Lambert. The guy was awesome. With the tracksuit and his whole demeanor, he loved his role in this match. He loved his performance. You could see he enjoys himself while he's in the ring. That was awesome. So yeah, that was another tribute to Eddie Guerrero. Like I said, there were a lot of them throughout the night. Free Amigos from CM Punk, Free Amigos from Penta El Zero M, the Frog Splash from Jericho, the opening sequence from Darby Allen and MJF, and of course another Frog Splash at the opener of the pre-show by Nyla Rose. And all of them are honorable and great tributes, and all deserving of the late great Eddie Guerrero. I loved it. We get the announcement that AEW has signed the franchise of Ring of Honor, Jay Lethal. This is awesome. I love Jay Lethal. I think he's one of the greatest wrestlers on the planet. I'm not just saying that. I really think he's one of the greatest wrestlers on the planet. One of his most memorable runs in Ring of Honor when he was the television champion on his second reign, and then that reign went on to over a year. He then won the Ring of Honor World Championship in another great matchup, and then he held onto that title for like 400 days. Jay Lethal is a great signee to AEW. He has a lot to give, still a lot in the tank. And this coming Wednesday, he will face Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. So you shouldn't miss this match. And we go to our main event. Hangman Adam Page taking on Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. Overall, this was a good match. I loved it. I love the story and the payoff. Now, here's the beauty of what AEW is trying to do. There is an art form in wrestling that is very dear to my heart. And that art form is known as the long-term storytelling. I haven't seen it in a while in WWE. I usually see it in New Japan Pro Wrestling. One of the most famous stories they had in recent years was the rise of Tetsuya Naito. When back in 2012, he won the G1, and then he lost to Okada. Then 4 years later, he won the G1 again, and then everybody thought that was going to be it. No, he lost to Okada again, and then only 2 years after he didn't win the G1, he actually came into the biggest event of the year, the Wrestle Kingdom, with nothing, and he walked out with everything. The ultimate payoff. And this is to me the same thing with Adam Page. Adam Page came into AEW saying that he will be the first AEW champion. He won the Casino Battle Royal. He had his match with Chris Jericho, which he lost. Now, to be honest, back in that point in time, I said to myself and I said to others, I don't think Adam Page is going to win because I don't see him as a world champion. And that's when the story began. They have built Adam Page for 2 years plus to finally reach this point, to reach this conclusion where he finally becomes AEW World Champion. Now, I've heard a review by Bully Ray about him saying, no, we should prolong this. What if Kenny Omega retains? What if he doesn't win yet? And I respect his opinion. I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But to me, this should have been it. Adam Page should have won the championship here because this story has been told for the past 2 years. And frankly, I believe the story should have ended it all out. But then Adam Page went on a maternity leave. Mazel tov, by the way. So when he came back in that Casino ladder match, I knew this was it. This was leading to him winning the championship. And the ending of the match came when he was on the ring apron. The Young Bucks showed up. Of course, he told them beforehand that if they interfere in this match, you will ruin them. So he stands on the apron, goes for the buckshot lariat. Nick Jackson's there, and he does nothing. He hits the buckshot lariat on Kenny from behind. He goes on the other side of the apron. Matt Jackson is there. He looks at him. He looks back at him. Matt nods. His sign of approval, I think. Buckshot lariat hits Kenny Omega. 1, 2, 3. And then after the 3, he kind of raised his shoulder. Kind of protected him, I think. But it doesn't matter. Because it was a clean finish. Adam Page becomes AEW champion. It was beautiful. That is how you pay off a long-term story. It was beautiful. And that is the beauty of stories like this. And I'm happy AEW knows how to appreciate long-term storytelling when they do it. And I'm just wondering what will be the next big story in AEW. I think maybe it's MJF with him beating the last of the 4 pillars. You know, you talked about the 4 future stars of AEW. He beat Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara and now Darby Allen. Maybe he's the next guy. Who knows? But for now, excellent finish to the pay-per-view. A very good match. I heard and I understand that Kenny Omega entered this matchup very injured. He has a shoulder injury, probably from carrying this entire company. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but I understand he's injured, so I'm gonna send my well wishes to him. Also, I want to send my best and well wishes to Jon Moxley and to Lance Archer. I hope they all have a full and speedy recovery to each and every one of them. Yeah, this was a great pay-per-view. A great pay-per-view. A 9 out of 10. My only grievances would have been the opening to the Minneapolis street fight and the whole confusion in the Cody tag match. Other than that, I think this was a solid pay-per-view. Solid matches, good storytelling throughout the night. Some people told me they thought this pay-per-view was a little bit long. I think that the 4-hour mark is a very good time slot for this pay-per-view. 4 hours is enough. 4 hours is enough because each and every one of the matches got to tell their story. It didn't feel to me like there were points in the matches that died down. To me, from watching this pay-per-view, it seems like the crowd was always into this matchup. And during the slower parts of the match, it's because the crowd was invested. It was into it. It didn't feel to me like it died down. And that's just my opinion. So yeah, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. And that is my review. Now we would like to hear from you. Let us know in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree with our score? We would love to read your comments. And also, if you want to stay notified when I'm uploading these videos, hit a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification button. And I'll see you next time on another Clothesline review on YouTube or on our podcast. We're available on Spotify, Podbean, Audio Audible of Amazon, Stitcher, and so much more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.